one of the things that you mentioned a little bit earlier is doing a pilot. And I think that's kind of standard in the industry. Let's do a pilot. And I've had some companies kind of push back at even doing any kind of proof of concept or demonstration. You mentioned don't do a free pilot, but what is your view on pilots in general? And then talk a little bit about the challenge we have with pilot-itis in this industry and how people do the pilot and then never scale it beyond the original project.
So I really don't like the word pilot, but I accept that some health systems still believe in the term. So I accept it. I'll use it. But my viewpoint is, if you're going to do a pilot, you should do so and you should plan as if it's going to scale, knowing that some will fail and that's fine. But you should plan as if the pilot will scale. And so, what does that mean? So I think number one, don't do a really tiny pilot, meaning in my mind, don't pilot something with one doctor or 30 or 40 patients, because often you're putting the same effort to implement the innovation, whether it's for 1,000 patients or 30 patients. So if you're going to solve a problem that's important enough, you should be able to get more than one doctor on board. If you can't get more than one on board, you're probably not solving something important enough. Like, that's kind of a signal.
Well, I have had companies come to me and they're all excited. We got a client, we're working with XYZ health system. And then you find out they're working with one doctor who's kind of buried in the detail or the basement somewhere, and he's not really representing the whole health system. He's made an independent choice. That's not really a full-blown client. So I like your view that it's got to be big enough. And I think you've said somewhere else that I've seen that, and it's got to be strategically important to the health system. It can't just be this little fly by night thing. They've got to believe and want it to succeed.
It's true, and I tell you, like, so one of the myths with the example that you shared is that you'll meet, let's say, an individual physician, and they'll tell you, "Hey, if you just prove this with me, trust me, everyone else in my department will see the value and they'll jump on board, and the whole health system will jump on board." And I don't believe that they're lying. I know they genuinely believe that, but what I've found is that that's very it's often not the case, and part of the challenge is sometimes that one physician is wrong about what everyone else cares about. They just often don't care about that problem or have a different perspective on what KPIs actually matter. And so you end up actually improving the metrics no one else cares about. But the other challenge I've found is that if you don't involve those executive sponsors from day one, they have no emotional attachment to your innovation. So you could actually deliver results, prove an ROI, and that executive team is actually upset because they never got to weigh in on choosing the innovation, on choosing the partner, and they feel miffed.
Hmm.
And I've seen cases where the leadership team will just pick another vendor because they actually had a chance to choose them, even though your innovation actually worked in that, one small setting. And so my feeling now is, you're right. You got to align with a bigger priority initiative. You got to involve key sponsors, key executives from day one, and then map out what that roadmap looks like if it's successful. And so so phase one might be, hey, we're only doing this for, joint replacement patients. And then phase two is all of orthopedics. And then phase three is a few more service lines. And then phase four is the whole enterprise. And there's no guarantee you'll get there. You have to earn each phase.
Right.
But if you plan it out that way, then you start to actually design phase one and phase two with the rest of the phases in mind, and you're going to actually, not make the mistake of, planning something too small, or planning it with the wrong people involved and all that.
Right. And I do agree with you taking that phased approach, but communicating that this is the life of the initiative. This is how we're going to scale it from day one can make or break it. It's part of that selling that that change story, not just deploying the product.